Hey guys, this is Soulfire. Welcome to my video on how to tank Yandir the Butcher on hard mode. This will be from the main tank perspective, and I will show you how to do the off-tank role as well, although there isn't really that much for the off-tank to do. I'm going to try and cover as many mechanics as possible, so that way, whether you are in an intermediate group just going for the hard mode clear, or an advanced group going for Dawnbringer, either way, you will have a much better understanding of how to tank the first boss in this trial. So the first thing you are going to want to do as the main tank is to grab Yandir and face him away from the group, but stacked on the first Fire Shaman here. We will be going over all of the ads, starting with the Fire Shaman. So he will do a mechanic where he will begin to glow orange and like he's on fire. When he is doing this, he is calling down meteors on random people in the group, which is why everyone in the group should stay staggered apart. So that way meteors don't overlap and kill people. They will knock you down, and if you are the main tank and you get knocked down, there's a chance that the boss will kill you, so make sure that you don't get knocked down. You are blocking when meteors fall down. The mages do respawn once they are killed. They don't have very much health. As you can see in this diagram here, this is where the first mage spawns, okay? So we're stacking the boss on the mage faced away from the group. Once this mage dies, the next mage will spawn usually 20 or 30 seconds apart from when the fight starts. So you notice the second one spawns and the first one's dead. You're going to move Yandir to the second mage and stack him on it. Make sure while you are moving that you are holding block, because Yandir will chain you if you get too far away from him, and it might kill you, so be very careful. And just like you did with the first one, once the second mage dies, you'll want to move him to the third mage. You may notice that if damage on one of the mages is low, the next one might respawn, or spawn in, rather, while the other one's still alive. So if that's the case, just finish the one that you're currently on and then move him to the next mage. So with the third mage that spawns close to the wall, it is very important that you, as the main tank, face the boss away from the group and towards the wall. I see a mistake that a lot of newer groups make, where they'll face the boss kind of towards the entrance like this, and that'll force the group to stack kind of into the wall here or along the wall, thus creating people to overlap with each other with meteors. And we do not want people to overlap each other with meteors. So always face the boss towards the wall so the group can stay stacked behind the boss and not die to meteors. Once the third mage dies, they'll move him to the fourth one. Once the fourth mage dies, it goes back in the same pattern. So just rinse and repeat. So again, the mages will spawn about 25 30 seconds apart. They're on a timer. It's always clockwise. They always spawn in the same rotation. So that is all there is to the fire mages. The next ad we are going to go over is the Sea Adder. At the start of this fight, the off-tank grabbed it, stacked it on the main boss, and I took it off of him, so that way the off-tank can focus on buffing the group with sets like PA or using a skill like Empower to make sure our group's damage is really high. The first mechanic that the Sea Adder is going to do is the Bile Spray. He will wind his head back, then he'll shoot a projectile. If you do not roll dodge this, it will put an AoE that is very hard to see at your feet if you are standing in it or any other people in your group are close to it. It will destroy you. It hits really, really hard, so try to avoid it. If you have the code's Combat Alerts add-on, you'll be able to see it being channeled and it'll be easy to roll dodge. But if not, just pay attention to when the Sea Adder puts his head back. The next mechanic that it will do is a slam where it will jump up in the air and come down. When this is happening, the group needs to block, because if they do not block, they will get knocked back, and it could cause people to overlap and die to meteors from the Shaman or any other problems being caused by some of the totems in this fight. So the third and final ad that can spawn in this fight is going to be the Griffin. The Griffin will spawn 1 minute into the fight if Yandir has not been pushed past 50% health. Make sure you discuss with your tanking partner who is going to be grabbing the Griffin first. Personally, I don't think it matters which tank grabs it, as long as both tanks are on the same page with who grabs it. The Griffin needs to be faced away from the group immediately because it has two cleave attacks. One is a giant conal attack that you will obviously want to have pointed away from the group. The second one is one where the Griffin will fly into the air and then land and send an AoE at whoever has taunt of it. So just make sure you face it away from the group. And then I would also like to mention that both the Sea Adder and the Griffin will enrage when they are too close to the boss, but honestly, I don't think it's that big of a deal. and most groups should be able to hold them together so they die to cleave without very many issues. Lastly, we have Yandir himself. The first thing we're going to do is stack him on the Fire Mage, as I mentioned before, then stack the Sea Adder on them so that the two adds die as quickly as possible. We're doing a strategy in this group because we have much higher damage than most groups, is where we keep the boss stacked in the location of the first mage so that we can hopefully push Yandir past 50% health before 1 minute comes up, meaning we would skip the Griffin in this fight, which would help our boss kill time overall. If you are in a more intermediate level group with lower damage, I would recommend just moving Yandir to the second mage as soon as it spawns rather than doing what we're doing here. Either way, we're going to go over Yandir's mechanics. At this point in the fight, he has two. One is a heavy attack you just saw. Simply block that. The other is called the Toxic Tide. It's a little bit more important. Yandir will put his sword back and then swing it at you like a baseball bat. If you do not roll dodge it, it will put a dot on you. It is very nasty. You definitely want to purge that right away. If you don't have purge like I do on my bar, just call for it from a healer, and then you should be fine. As we get closer to the halfway point here, I'll go over the rest. So once we're past 50%, we'll have no more Sea Adder or no more Griffin, which means we can move Yandir to the next mage. Yandir will also put an armor debuff on you, and he'll begin to jump. So when he puts his sword into the air, that's, he will jump. Anybody not blocking will get knocked back when Yandir lands. As you may have noticed, my screen looks a little bit different now. It's because there's an armor debuff on me that Yandir puts on me as soon as he's under 50%. Some tanks like to be guarded for this. I didn't really find it to be that necessary, but if you're just learning how to do this, I probably recommend it. Whenever Yandir jumps in the air, he'll put his sword up. That's, he's about to jump. And then I move in and I stand right where Yandir was just standing. As you can see, his hitbox is still there. And when you stand right there, it'll make sure that Yandir lands mostly in the same spot he just was at. So that way the DPS don't need to relocate their AoEs and they can keep up as much damage as possible. So this point in the fight is going to be that third mage you can see in the back corner. Don't worry about him. He'll just keep calling down meteors. Group just keeps up the damage. You just keep up your debuffs. Keep Yandir as still as you can. So when he jumps up again, just move into where his hitbox is, and we'll keep Yandir for the most part very stationary. Watch out for his heavy attacks that we already went over before. And then with that being said, you should be all good to go. So finally, what I forgot to mention were the totems. There are 4 totems in this fight that will spawn at random times. There's only 2 you need to worry about though, and that is the Gargoyle totem and the Char's totem. The Gargoyle one will turn you into stone if you're not blocking, but generally going to be blocking most of the time as a tank anyway, so it's not going to be much of an issue. And the Char's totem will put a poison AoE at your feet. Just purge it and you'll be fine. So yeah, hopefully that helps. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, check out my Twitch channel, and I will see you guys in the next video.